Hi, I'm Phoebe Hollond and this is How I Live with Style. You're at my home in Shepherd's Bush, where I live with my husband and my 2-year-old daughter, Alba. When we first moved in, the kitchen was on the first floor above us in this galley kitchen, and this effectively was a derelict basement. After 8 years of living here, the kind of main plan the whole time was to move the kitchen down here and to extend out. We love entertaining. I love cooking. I don't like cleaning up. My husband does all the cleaning up, but we do host a lot of dinner parties. I have quite a big family and I would say I cook a Sunday roast every single Sunday, and I'm known to be the queen of roast potatoes. One of my favourite things about this kitchen is this work surface. I am a strong believer that if budgets are slightly constrained, then I think that it makes more sense to get your joinery made a bit less expensively, i.e. my contractor made this joinery for us and then we spent the money on the worktop. This is a quartz, which basically means that it's completely indestructible, unlike marble or onyx. I love the colour of it and it just really makes this space feel so much more luxurious, even though actually the cabinets are extremely inexpensive and are just painted MDF. Oh, this is actually our other member of our family. It's our dog Darcy, and she's 6 years old now and is very lazy. All three of these cushions, I've done the same kind of trick that I do in instances where I can't afford so much of the fabric. So for example, this is a Fortuny cushion. This fabric is hideously expensive, so we just did the front and then we did the back with a plain. And then the same for these two. They're Lemonac from Pierre Frey, which is expensive French fabric house, and then we just did plain on the back. This was the major part of the works and it was one of the final things we did in this house. We ended up eating effectively 50% of our garden, which people thought was completely crazy. But for us, it was far more important to get more internal living space. I don't necessarily think you need a kind of huge garden in London, plus we're very close to Ravenscourt Park. One of the major things we did so it didn't feel so much like a basement was we put in these large roof lanterns, 2 of them, one over the kitchen and one here. We decided to put this trellis detailing in it so it didn't feel like an aggressive void. It really softens it and makes it feel kind of much warmer and much more homely. And then we put in these 3 French doors, which was quite nice having that symmetry. And then I designed this dining table for the space called the Serpentine, and it's a high gloss dining table, which means that it does scuff. However, my design philosophy is that things do age and things do get scuffed, and actually there's a beautiful story behind all of that rather than keeping everything kind of perfect. I think that's not natural and that's not the way that we live, especially as a young family. So this is our downstairs bathroom, the guest loo. Originally it was our galley kitchen, but when we put the kitchen downstairs, we renovated this to be 2 really hard-working spaces. The first one being the kind of really fun, playful guest loo that is this, with the red and white checkerboard floor, a stained glass window that I found in Frome Reclamation and then got the whole punctured through our walls and put in, and this beautiful wallpaper with the panelling below. And then the other half of it, which is a bit of a mess at the moment, is our utility room. Effectively, everything ugly can be shoved behind there and closed behind the curtain. This is my study. It is where I work. Originally, before we did the works to this room, it was this kind of very bare white walls, no cornicing, no interesting architectural details. It was really kind of crying out for these ornate details to be added in. Either side of the fireplace was just kind of open niches, and I really wanted to have a place where I could store all my interiors magazines, all my interiors books and kind of just everything that I use for work on a day-to-day basis. So we packed out the niches either side of the fireplace and created these kind of beautiful shaped bookshelves with then these plaster shelves that I bought. And then this cornice, which was really quite over the top, was something that I purchased and then got installed because I felt that this room really needed that kind of quite ornate designed look, especially it being my studio. This mirror, which is a great piece to have in it here because it reflects all the light around, was a piece that Beata Heyman gave me when I worked with her a while ago, and I love it very much. This is our living room and snug. Originally, the entrance to the room was actually just as you come in to the house from the entrance hall, but we decided to close that off and create the entrance into that room so that you had to kind of come through and it felt more like a cocoon. It also meant that we could get a longer sofa on that wall to watch TV in here. This is where our TV is hidden. I personally don't like TVs on display, so we got this cabinet made, and actually it's a really good and inexpensive way to hide a TV. So effectively you get the carpenter to make the frame of the cabinet. You get this wallpaper printed as a sticker and you apply it to the front. And then effectively you have the doors bifolding, which then you open up and reveals the TV. So it's kind of quite a good way to get a TV in your living room without having it on display all the time. The other thing that I love about this room is the upholstered walls. So kind of, again, to create this kind of cocoon, like really cozy space, we wanted to have all the walls covered in fabric, but instead of just kind of applying it flat to the wall, we wanted that almost like that softness and squidginess. We had this amazing guy come and re-upholster our walls in the traditional technique, which is where you apply battens around and then you stuff the in between the battens with wadding and then upholster onto that. So actually the whole room is this kind of like soft, squidgy feeling. And they did this incredible detailing with the piping with the leftover stripe that goes all the way around. This is the main bedroom. It's such a kind of serene space, and it's one of those rooms that I think doesn't really feel like London, and that's what we loved and what we wanted to create in here. We didn't want a room that kind of felt hectic at all, and I think that these beautiful kind of golden brown seagrass wallpapers that we've covered the whole room in does make a really good job at giving that kind of very cozy, non-London feel. With this room, because obviously serenity was something that we wanted, we both have quite a different idea of what serenity means. For me, my most soothing colours are pink and red, and originally when we put these bookshelves in, I actually had painted all of them pink with then like a bright red pinstripe, and when he came in and saw it, he was like, oh, that looks a bit like flesh and blood. And then with the brown wallpaper, he wasn't so sure about the colour combinations. So we moved away from the pink and red and went slightly more for the masculine look and put the kind of deeper blues with then the off-whites, which I think works really well. But if it was my way all the time, this room would be a lot more pink than it is. But I won with the headboard. Next door is my daughter's room, and actually probably one of my favourite pieces in our whole house is in her room. I bought this cabinet for pretty much nothing off Interior, and then I hired an artist to come and paint the outside of it, inspired by the Duomo in Florence. And it's kind of such a great, effective way of buying kind of inexpensive pieces and then transforming them into something entirely different by using an artist, and I love to use mural artists. This is the main bathroom. The inspiration was an Italian palazzo. So I got this beautiful green stone installed on the floors and as a skirting all the way around, and then just painted the walls in this really lovely off-white. I then got the contractors to install this lovely tongue and groove panelling on the ceiling and painted it in a shade darker to the walls. The reason for the panelling was to create a kind of sense of coziness and warmth. I really like when you're lying in the bath to look up to something a bit interesting rather than just a kind of plain ceiling. So having this detailing on the ceiling was just kind of a bit of interest that I thought would be quite intriguing to have. There are so many companies out there where you can buy effectively marble tiles in large slabs. You can literally buy them off the shelf from a variety of companies like Fired Earth or Mandarin Stone. And it's a very easy way to create this kind of Italian pazzo look without having to spend a fortune and getting a kind of, you know, stone man in. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to the Times Life and Style YouTube channel.